Hello everyone, this is Teddy Keckstead from Forex Trading Unlocked, and we are here on October 23rd, 2020 with a Forex Trading Analysis webinar for you, and we're going to see how things are shaping up as we enter the final stretch of trading for this week. Real quick, we just want to put up our disclaimer to remind you that this video is for illustrative and educational purposes only, and that is it. So please check out that disclaimer, and now we will go to our first plug of the day, which is High Probable Japanese Candlestick Patterns. It's a book available on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle version. Through it, you can utilize the best buy and sell patterns used for over 400 years to give yourself a competitive edge against the markets. With that, let's not waste any more time and get to our live screen. Please remember to subscribe and like our videos to help us grow our audience and keep motivating us to keep producing these. All right, so we have the Forex-Trading-Unlocked.com website pulled up. We have the Euro US dollar chart already here for us, and as you can see, the dollar is under pressure again today. The euro is trying to make a run at resistance, although it's having a little bit of trouble here. So as far as direction right now, I would key off of the recent high from 2 sessions ago, as well as the low from last week. This is your major range here to look as far as a breakout for momentum. It looks like we're starting to run out of gas. I mean, overall, the dollar is under a lot of pressure. Right now, I think that the markets are forecasting or being prepared for a potential win, which would be negative the U.S. dollar, and I think that's helping to lend a lot of the pressure that's going on right now in the markets, because due to Brexit and a couple other things, and especially the European numbers, there's no reason for either the pound nor the euro, which are the two biggest components of the dollar index, to be gaining strength against the dollar right now. So it'll be interesting to see how things now move over the next week and a half as we head into the election day. So I would say that probably what you can expect is that right now we're going to run up around this area here, testing resistance going into the November 3rd election. Excuse me. So we have a few days left, a few trading days left. It could be just a sideways market, and then I think what you're going to see is if Biden wins, this goes up, you're going to have a breakout to the upside, and if Trump wins, you're going to have a breakout to the downside. Or, excuse me, if Biden wins, you're going to see a breakout to the upside with the euro US dollar, and vice versa if Trump wins, meaning a stronger dollar. So let's go back to our last recent low here and this recent low here. Oops. There we go. And now we'll take this high here, and we're going to put this in. Now you can see that from this high we did break out to the upside. But we're going to move this to right here and use this as our, like I said, upside breakout, downside breakout range. You can see this wedging, and it wouldn't be outside of the realm of possibility to see most of your trading range go trade in around this area going into the election. Once we get past that, like I said, that this is the date here. We go this way, or we go this way. Okay, so this would be, oops, get rid of that. So here we have a Biden win. Oops, that's not what we need. Okay, that's that. And then here we have a Trump win. Dollar's been relatively strong while President Trump has been in office, and as well as the economic policies and things like that. That's why we've had a particular strong dollar for most of the past 3 years up until the coronavirus pandemic. So what we're going to look at now is what is going to happen. So on an hourly basis, we just kicked off the U.S. markets. You can see that we are now leaning on support a little bit after having spiked for the high of the day so far off the euro US dollar. Now that the U.S. markets are open and everyone's digesting the debates, it's very likely that we'll probably see this market trade lower for the rest of the day, at least for the next couple hours. If we settle around where we're at right now, say like around another 15 minutes or so, then I would start to look at a dollar profit-taking rally coming into place. So let's go look at the British pound, U.S. dollar here. Okay. British pound US dollar had a nice rally a couple days ago, and now today, like I said, like the euro is starting to fall back on support. The pound is running out of gas. Could be a profit-taking move after this rally, or it could be the beginning of a downward slide. Now, the same thing here is in effect as is with the euro. We're keying off of when the election happens and what is going to most likely occur. So the same thing here is in place. So you want to key off of the high from 2 sessions ago for a breakout to the upside, and then the low from last week as your breakout to the downside. I think going into the election, once again, that you're going to see things that are going to be relatively self-contained, unless we have some major upsetting, earth-shattering news, which I don't believe is going to happen. And then here's another thing for as far as direction. Should you get a Biden win, this would be probably your most likely scenario of where it's going to go. And should you get a Trump re-election, this is where the pound should go. Now, this is only short term. This is not something that we're looking at long term, but we are looking at this is the election trade. So Biden win. And then here we have a Trump win. Now, is this an absolute? Absolutely not. What it is the most likely scenario for the market to react to a win for either candidate. So, not supporting either one, not guaranteeing that this is going to happen either, but this is the most likely reason why you would see something like this. And to give you an idea of why we're looking at this, let's go and take a look at, let's see, Exxon. No, why is this not Exxon Mobil. All right, so ExxonMobil has been dropping. I know why we're looking at an oil stock when this is a Forex thing. Well, believe me, currencies impact all kinds of things. So since we've been getting closer and closer to the election, we've had the oil stocks tanking because even though oil has been strong, oil stocks are tanking. Why is that? Well, defense and utility stocks such as oil and stuff stand to suffer greatly under a Biden election. I would use caution with this. If Biden wins, excuse me, the most likely scenario is that you're going to see oil stocks continue to tumble. Now, here's a monthly. As you can see, look at how this has been going down here. Now, this was because of the price of oil drastically reduced, especially when he had here the big sell-off at the beginning of the year. We're back down to the lows of where we spiked when oil was being produced at massive production rates between the Saudis and the Russians. Now we're hovering right at those lows once again. This is what's I think is most likely going to occur. If you have a Trump re-election, you're going to see an accelerated move to the upside. Okay? And then the opposite will be true if Biden wins. If Biden wins, you're going to see ExxonMobil become a dog, and it'll probably be a very sick dog for a while. They're going to work on the Green New Deal. They're going to put so many restrictions on the oil industry that the long-term outlook for companies such as Exxon, they're going to be constantly bleeding, let alone as production levels are forced to slow down. You cannot just shut off the machines in that industry. It costs more to turn them back on than it does to keep them running. So this is going to become a confluence of what's going to most likely become turmoil should Biden win. Now, here's another thing you want to look at. while I'm looking at these stocks real quick. Northrop. Oops. Let's get this right. Sorry about this, folks. Northrop Grumman. It should start to pull up. Okay, here we go. NOC. So just like we have, come on. NOC. Okay, here we go. Now it's loading. So Northrop Grumman is also the same thing. Since we've been entering into the election phase, this is a defense stock that is, look at this. It is just tanking. Key thing is here is we had made a nice little solid bounce here earlier in October. We failed through here. This, I believe, is the pre-election jitters going on with this cycle as well. So notice that Northrop Grumman, which is a big defense contractor, this is getting hammered. Now, granted, it's an expensive stock, but still it's because a Biden win means that defense contracting and defense spending will go down once again, and this is the way you can continue to look for the forecast for this stock if Biden becomes the next president. The opposite is true if Trump wins. If Trump wins, that guarantees that the military will remain strong for at least 4 more years. The military has been built up under his watch, and there's no reason to think that all of a sudden he's going to pull back the reins on that. So these are cases that are just like the Forex market. You can see how the election is becoming a big staple with what is going on. So let's go back to British pound, US dollar. As you can see, this market has, we have our little reactions as far as Biden win, Trump win. The currencies, like I said, are most likely going to start to go sideways over the next couple of sessions going into the, oops, this goes to November 3rd. Okay, there we go. Here's our election target date. Most likely we will see a consolidating, wedging going into this date, and then once we hit this will be the explosion. We're not going to even get into whether or not the election is going to be contested or not, or how the polls are running. We'll see what happens after that date. But right now, as it stands, this is our outlook. So let's look at the U.S. dollar Swiss. Any questions out there? We have some viewers, but no questions right now. Just want to double check that to make sure that we're not missing anybody. Let's see, I'll put this out on the chat. Any questions? All right, there we go. All right, now we have the US dollar Swiss pulled up here. And this market also, like the euro, is pretty much weighing heavily on the dollar. Now, if we get a big turnaround in strength, for instance, obviously with the, you can tell the tone is that a Trump win goes up and a Biden win goes lower. So with this one, let's do this. So, Trump win doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to start to head back towards parity or something against the Swiss franc, but it should shore up the Swiss. Remember that the Swiss and the US dollar are both flight to quality currencies. Currently, they're some of the only flight to qualities left. All that we have left now for flight to quality is gold and US dollar and the Swiss dollar and the yen in some cases, because interest rates are pretty much off the table. Short-term interest rates are almost locked bid. There has been a break in the bonds, which is very disturbing. That's another reason why I think that come election time we have these significant changes and shifts in direction should you have a turnover in power from Trump to Biden as far as the presidency is concerned. So I would key off of this low here and this last swing high right here. This is probably going to contain your trading over the next couple of sessions as we head into the election. The Swiss doesn't move as violently or as much as the euro, or let alone the pound, as volatility is concerned, and we have a big base here. So as much as the dollar's been trying to get beaten down by these other currencies and has, you can see that with the Swiss, it's been in a pretty tight range over the past month and a half. I would expect that this is going to be contained once again as we head into the election, but if we do have a breakout from these levels, then obviously that would be something that is confirming the shift in momentum is where we are going. So right now, Swiss also very neutral going into the election trade. So the euro and the pound have a little bit more of a ability to develop a swing trade. But like I said, over the next week, use caution, wait till November 3rd, because believe me, you're going to have swings like there is no tomorrow, and it doesn't matter who wins. So that's the beautiful thing about trading, is money doesn't care about politics at all. Another reason you can think about consolidation happening in some of your major currencies is just like by watching what's going on with the Canada as well. This is the same type of scenario going on. I would key off of this major low here. It could flirt around with the low from last week. The high from last week or a week and a half ago, I don't think is going to get triggered, but you never know. Right now, I would say don't count on it until after the election. After the election, I think it is going to have a big impact on what's going on, because right now Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, is doubling down on his actions with the United States, considering that he is awaiting a Biden victory. May not happen. So now here's the question is, where do we go from here on the election? Well, it's the same scenario. I think that if we have a Trump win, you're going to see the U.S. dollar climb versus the Canada in the short run. And also the opposite is true for a Biden win. So even though they are our neighbors to the north in America, that doesn't mean anything. So a Democratic turnover in power would most likely, like I said, give the U.S. dollar bears a lot of fuel to work on, especially because as you see certain sectors in the stock market unravel and profit-taking happen because of the promise that he's made to turn over the taxes and to basically start just trashing anyone that has any investments in the markets. Expect that to fuel a lot of volatility and definitely a lot of profit-taking. I mean, if you got cash and equities, you have between this upcoming tax season and then when Biden overturns everything, you'll have one last shot for the year 2022, and then your capital gains are going to skyrocket astronomically. So if you're going to take profits, you're going to take it between now and then if he wins. Otherwise, if he doesn't, then you're not going to see a forced sell-off, because you're going to have a lot of retirees. They're going to say, well, I'd rather take my money out now and only get taxed at X rate than getting taxed at more than twice that rate in the future when they need the money, So, I mean, you think about this, even if the market doesn't move, it's going to cost you more to take your money out of your retirement account with the Biden win in 2 years. With the Trump win, it's secure where it's at right now. The new levels that were imposed that went into effect this year that people have been enjoying will finally stay for a while in that scenario. So we'll see what happens. So this one I would be very cautious. I would expect a sideways trade to really chop people up. So see how this little area is here. How you have just this little consolidation for a few days, and it's just a tight little range here. Well, I would expect that you're going to see something like this go right into here as well. Okay, so this little spot here probably will turn out to be like this. You can maybe extend it like this, and this is also another key level here to low from this week as far as breakout. But I would use caution with this one, because a failure from here just continues this short-term downtrend. But this is going to be a key support down here. It's going to be hard to get through this before the election, unless it continues to show that Biden is leading in the polls and it starts to lean towards a Biden victory. Well, then I can say that you most likely are going to see this happening. where you'll see the U.S. dollar Canada continue to batter support. But like I said, going into the election, there's no real reason to send any shock waves, and especially after now the debates are over. We've already had 10% of the population in America already come up and out to vote. So we'll see. The good thing is we know that people are definitely placing their bets on the election, and people are voting, which is good. It's a right that you should exercise. You have it. You should be fortunate and happy and grateful that you do, because you don't have those rights in many countries, let alone even if you do, they don't count. So U.S. dollar JPY, let's go see what's going on in the Asian area of the world. You can see that there was a harsh sell-off in the yen the other day when we had our little normal Wednesday spot on TFNN.com, our 940 Wednesday spot. We were talking about this slide. Overzealous sell-off, but the thing is that this was when the U.S. dollar was rallying against some other currencies, and this one took a dive. Typically goes the opposite. Now, the funny thing is that while the other major currencies are running out of gas, remember, it is Friday, so it may be a very lackluster trade. Another reason I would say is because it's raining like crazy in Chicago, and when that happens, it's kind of like you buy the grains when it's sunny in Chicago and you sell it when it's rainy. When it's rainy for some reason too on a Friday, it just seems to slow things down. So I wouldn't expect any really erratic things to happen. Although we do have 9 o'clock coming, we'll see if the algos start to kick up something. If they don't kick anything off here in another couple minutes, then I would say that you're probably going to see not much. In fact, since we are about to roll the hour, let's go jump back to the Euro US dollar and check out that hourly chart and see if the sell signal looks like it's going to stay in place. Okay, we are here. It's almost 9 o'clock. You can see that we're pretty much in the middle of the range for today's trading for the Euro US dollar. And here we settled here with this little bearish and going. Yeah, I can see that we may not have much of a trade today, but it definitely looks like it wants to leak on support and pretty much do that. I wouldn't expect very much to downside, but definitely it looks like the euro has run its course to the upside for the day today. So now back to the US dollar yen. What does that mean for this? Well, it looks like it's shoring up a little bit, and at least that's on the hourly. Let's go back to the daily. There we go. So same as for this. The Asian markets are closed, and the European markets are getting ready to shut down. So it's going to be just the American traders going on for what is the end of the week here. And like I said, I would not expect very much of action for the rest of the day. And then also as far as what goes on here, now here's the interesting thing. You know how we've been leaning towards dollar positive Trump, dollar negative Biden. The opposite is would be the fact here with the Japanese yen. Reason being is that the Japanese yen typically runs the opposite. So if Trump wins, you could see a stable to lower yen. And then if Biden wins, you could see a stronger dollar versus the yen. Now, there are all kinds of other variables that will come into place. But I think that unless you have a breakout there or we hit support again here, I don't think you're going to see much activity. This market is in a bear market. It's making lower move lows, lower move swing highs. So this is going to be key what happened recently. So we have our containment range going into the election. This last swing high and this most recent swing low are going to be huge for direction. A failure here has us continuing the downward trend. But like I said, right now the markets are pricing in a Biden win right now. So I think that this could be a situation where we made a lower move high, now we made a higher move low, and the question is, are we neutral, getting ready for a bullish explosion? Is Biden going to take it? Or is it going to be neutral to a bearish implosion if we see a reversal of the consensus and Trump wins the election? So very interesting stuff. This is like consolidating just like the rest.
And it's something you have to be very careful of. There's going to be lots of numbers coming out next week, just like any week. But as we get closer and closer to the election, you're going to see these erratic moves where the algos kick in, and then it's going to dry up. Volume will just completely dry up, most likely. That's usually what happens in these situations. So why would this be any different? Now, here's an interesting scenario, too. We have the Australian dollar, US dollar, where we had been making lower move lows, lower move highs. Now we've made a higher move low. So we're going to key off of this one here for direction. And we'll use this right here. And then we have obviously the downtrend, which is in place here. And we are wedging into this. Now, Australia has had a big issue with lockdowns and coronavirus and whatever. So, not to mention stable price of oil, the fact that gold prices have stabilized and have had a little rally recently, but they're pretty much just hanging sideways. This doesn't bode well for Australian dollar versus the U.S. dollar. Takes it off the really strong bullish campaign into a neutral to bearish campaign. Even though, once again, when it comes to the U.S. dollar, this is a situation, too, where if you have a Biden victory, you'll probably see a continuation of strength with the Australian dollar versus the U.S. dollar, and vice versa. You'll see, with a Trump win, a turning, a reversal of that with the dollar having strength. The one thing, like I said, just like we have the U.S. dollar yen, which acts differently than the other currencies we were look at, the first four currencies we looked at, the European and the Canada, they all have their own nuances here. And as far as strength, the U.S. dollar strength, if we have U.S. dollar weakness coming into play, that can help to aid with the Australian dollar rally that has been in place and help to kick it up to make necessarily, because like I said, Australia has their woes of their own, and as long as you have to watch the CRB and watch the metals markets, if you have gold, silver, oil that are under pressure and hanging on support, or being neutral to lower, that is weak, the Australian dollar, no matter what the other currency cross is, like the dollar, it could be the euro, it could be anything. And the opposite is true, is if you see gold prices going up and you see oil prices going up, that lends support to Australian dollar. And if you also see a reduction in coronavirus cases in Australia, let alone a easing of the lockdowns that they have there, then you will probably see also a resurgence of bullish strength to the Australian dollar component of whatever cross it is versus the Australian dollar. But right now, they're looking at it in a weaker posture. So even if the dollar is weak versus, say, the euro and the pound and the Swiss and even the Canada, you may still have dollar strength versus Australia. So be careful. There's a lot of divergence that hit the currencies this summer. They don't all trade the same way, but we definitely want to keep these variables in mind. Like I said, here we have the New Zealand dollar, U.S. dollar. So what we were talking about with the Australian dollar is similar scenarios as far as election wins and things like that. However, New Zealand doesn't have quite the coronavirus issues. They don't have lockdowns like Australia has. So it's very possible that you could start to see where, let's say that Biden wins the election, okay? You could see that New Zealand dollar, U.S. dollar would remain bullish, but there's other variables that come into place also. And that would be where you could see the New Zealand dollar, U.S. dollar go up with a Biden win, but the Australian dollar, U.S. dollar would go down with a Biden win. It doesn't matter who wins, Biden or Trump. So just remember, there's a lot of divergence. This is another market where I think you have to key off of recent levels for your direction. The low set a few sessions back here. Obviously, we spiked high today. This market is grinding this correction higher, but remember, on the overall, here's this swing high, here's this swing low. This keeps this market in a bullish market, but it's running out of gas. Also, like I said, remember, this could continue higher versus the Australian dollar. So we'll see. I think right now it's showing strength because of dollar weakness and the projected Biden win. And like I said, if you go this way, we're going to do this for Biden, and then we'll do this for Trump. So I think that this is another one where the election is going to become a big factor as far as direction, or as far as a big component of direction. So this one will be like the European currencies and the Canada. Remember I said that the Australian dollar has so many of its own other issues that might have a different take. So it wouldn't be surprising for me to see, say, in another 2-3 weeks, let's just say that Trump wins, to see this could still be neutral, okay? And it could even rally, even though it's a Trump win and not a Biden win. But you could see the Australian dollar going south and this one going higher. So look, if you trade the New Zealand dollar, in fact, let's take a look at the New Zealand dollar over the Australian dollar and see which one is stronger. And just like I thought, this is continuing to pressure highs, whereas the Australian dollar is obviously on the losing end of this. So when you want to look at, like we just looked at the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar versus the dollar, when you want to gauge strength in either one of those currencies, check them against themselves. So New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar is indicating a bullish market. Now look at this algo spike from a couple days ago. That is some serious volatility, but boom, it made a incredible comeback here. Back to our New Zealand dollar, US dollar. So once again, New Zealand dollar over the Australian dollar, we are positive. New Zealand dollar over the US dollar, we are still in a bullish mode. And Australian dollar, US dollar, we're in a bearish mode. I mean, lower move lows, lower move highs are indicative of what? A bearish market. And then we come back to New Zealand dollar, US dollar. We have higher move highs and higher move lows. These are indicative of a bullish market. So in the short-term pattern here of September, New Zealand dollar is going this way and Australian dollar is going the other way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens after the election. And I really think that after November 3rd, you're going to start, especially as we head into wintertime and the coronavirus, if it starts spiking huge in Australia, get ready to see that New Zealand dollar, Australian dollar bull continue to blast through resistance. Now let's go and check out our US dollar, TRY. As you can see, US dollar in one of these smaller currencies here continues to gain strength and strength and strength. So this is the one thing that, forget the election, when you get to your more medium to lesser currencies, the dollar probably is going to remain a bull for a while. I wouldn't think that even with a Biden win. Now, the one thing is with this here, a Biden win on this one could have a correction here, just because under Trump you had very strong Middle Eastern diplomacy. You have, like it or not, it's the first time we've had peace or peace-ish type environment in the Middle East in, well, my whole lifetime, and I'm almost 50. So, I mean, you have ISIS that's been eradicated. You have the peace accords that are growing. You have Arab countries that would never talk to Israel or even deal with us at the table before, and they are. This stands to be a big thing. If Trump gets reelected, you can expect more of the same and stability in the Middle East, which is something, like I said, has never existed in my lifetime. And if we have a Biden win, and this is not politics, it will be more of the same, and then you will see a reversal. Israel is our ally right now. We backed them hard under this presidency, where other presidents, especially the last one, refused to and just completely ignored them. So why would the partner of that president be any different? So I think that your Israeli-U.S. relations will completely collapse under Biden, and you're going to see Middle Eastern strife grow at a record rate. So that's just my prediction. So hopefully that doesn't occur no matter who wins, but you can see that the market is pricing this in here. So let's look at the U.S. dollar, Mexican peso, before we get back to the euro, and see what's going on here. So US dollar, Mexican peso, this one's breaking. You know, this one's factoring in a Biden win, because a Biden win means lots of tourism to Mexico. It means the opening of the borders again, because right now things are, you know, the pressure with Trump and what have you, with as far as immigration and things like that. But I would expect you to see that should we
have a Trump re-election, then you're probably going to see the peso get another rally, bouncing back up to this 21 to 22 and a half, maybe even 23 pesos to a dollar. And with the Biden win, excuse me, I haven't had my morning orange juice, so my voice is a little bit rough. So anyhow, U.S. dollar, Mexican peso under a Trump Biden win most likely will continue the move lower. So euro, U.S. dollar. Now we have the U.S. markets that have been open now for a little over a half an hour, and as you can see, we have a lot of going nowhere here with the euro, U.S. dollar. It's after 9 o'clock. European markets are closing soon and wrapping up their days and their positions and what have you. And now it's going to be just America and the algos left. And like I said, right now it's shaping up to be a quiet trading day. And like I said, once again, when it's rainy in Chicago and stormy, typically on a Friday, everyone's lethargic, running out of gas, and not paying too much attention to the markets. And I think everyone's digesting the debates as well. So if there's no more questions, we had a couple little ones here. We answered those in our analysis. So with that, I think we will just check it out. We have one thing on the chat. Let's see. Okay. So put that in. We'll give this guy 1 second to operate. Now, once again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our videos to help to encourage us to produce more, and definitely pass it on to your friends. And don't forget to also check out the book, High Probable Japanese Candlestick Patterns, on Amazon.com in Kindle and paperback version. Through it, you can utilize the best buy and sell signals used in Forex markets, futures markets, stock markets, options markets, you name it, you can use them. We do have, interestingly enough, we had yesterday, even though it was a very small trading day, this was a short-term sell signal. This is a bearish engulfing line right here. The thing is, it only went from 1, 2, 3, 4 days, 5 days. And that's the minimal you want to see. And this is another reason why I think you're going to be contained to sideways, is because of this bearish engulfing line right here. The bearish engulfing line should put a short-term, engulfing. There we go. So the short-term sell signal, this bearish engulfing line right here, will help to contain us into this wedge. Now, how much of a sell signal is this? Because this is a intermediate short-term wave, there's not much to look for here. In fact, you can see it from here to here. So we're looking for a breakdown to somewhere. Now, this is just off the short-term move, right into this zone right here. Let's get rid of this, make it a little clearer. So see this little green band right here? If this sell signal is a valid sell signal, we've already touched the upper half of this support band. This is probably where you're going to see the trading to gravitate. I would be very surprised if we have much of a breakout in this range. So let's move this up. There we go. So somewhere in this little pocket here, this is what I would expect for us to settle into next week. Now, obviously, if we take out this upward sloping support and then we start leaning on this level here and take this out, well, that besides the Trump-Biden fundamentals that we're putting in here, then you have a technical break that would definitely help us to go back to our short-term neutral to bearish outlook for this market. Remember, we had a gigantic head and shoulders that occurred here, gave us our first break. This could be our leg 1 down, our leg 2 correction as we set up for our leg 3 downward trend move. And especially if all of a sudden you start to see Trump gain momentum, or once we hit the election day and the numbers really are leaning towards a Trump victory, I would say that you'll probably see the euro US dollar fall out of bed, and then we could have us really easily leaning on this $1.16 area, and maybe even have a correction down to $1.14, somewhere in this area, which is really what we're looking for in the longer term.
this is a technical outlook, not an election outlook. So bearish the euro US dollar, definitely technically and fundamentally, but right now we have short-term fundamentals that are keeping it neutral to positive as the market weighs in a Biden win. Now the nice thing about this is it doesn't matter what your political skew is, you can capitalize off of these things. So just like I showed you ExxonMobil and Northrop Grumman, think about this. Biden wins. If you hold those stocks, you know it's a good time to get out of them. If you don't own these stocks and Trump does win, it's a good time to buy those because they are so beaten up, So it's something to think about. And remember, we'll be looking at this and watching this as we get closer to the election, and we will have election trades too coming up for you next week. So we're going to come up with actually this weekend for next week. So we're going to have our breakdown of what happened with the Forex markets when they close after today's session, and then we'll also have an outlook for next week as well as our picks for the election. Wait for that one. We're going to have a special webinar, trading picks for the election, that we're going to produce for next week. It's going to be a very interesting webinar. I think you'll like it. It's going to have Forex, futures, stocks, options, the whole thing. We're going to lay out a trading plan for the post-election. So it doesn't matter who wins, we're going to have a plan. All right, so it's always good to have a plan. Read the book High Probable Japanese Candlestick Patterns, and it'll teach you a plan right there on how to trade all markets. With that being said, I want to thank you very much. I'm Teddy Keckstedt from Forex Trading Unlocked. Please check us out at our website, www.forex-trading-unlocked.com every day. Check us out at our YouTube channel, Forex Trading Unlocked. Please subscribe and like it. And also follow like our videos and pass them on